I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Time for my viewer mailbag. I've had a couple people over the last few months ask me if I manage all my own investment properties, which yes, I do. I've done several blogs on this over the years about finding tenants, managing your properties. I'll post a link here to maybe one of my older blogs here that talks a lot about this. So I don't want to be repetitious here with too much of this, but the long and short of it here is that yes, I do manage all my my properties, and I have since day one. Now, there are a lot of pros and cons to managing your own property or hiring a management company to do it. So I'll just quickly go through it here, and I'll post a link here to finding some of my older blogs I've done on finding tenants and managing your properties. So managing your property, I like to do it because it saves me a whole lot of money. When you hire someone to do your property management, they're going to charge anywhere from 10, 12, 15%. It's really all over the road, which I'll get to in a minute. And they'll usually charge you a one-time fee to get a new tenant. Every time a tenant turns over, usually it can be half a month's rent. Sometimes it's a flat fee, $750, whatever. But I'm a bit of a control freak. I like to manage my own properties, get my own tenants in there. I find it is very easy in Vancouver and Richmond to get tenants these days with Craigslist. In the old days, I used to have to run, I talk about it in my book, I used to have to run ads in the Province and in the Vancouver Sun in the classified section. It was expensive, it was slow. Craigslist now, it's free. I can post an opening on one of my properties on a Monday morning in Craigslist. By Monday afternoon, I've got 10 or 15 calls that have come in, and I've already got 5 showings booked. That's the way it's been the last 5 years in Vancouver. It's really a landlord's dreamland right now. Vacancy is very low. But I also like to screen my own tenants, run the credit checks. That way, I know exactly who's in my unit and they've got my approval. As far as repairs and things like that, I've been in the business long enough that I have handyman and tradespeople that I can call if the toilet breaks or the dishwasher goes. It's not a big problem to do it. I can call one of my trades guys and have it done. And you get some economies of scale, of course. Once you have multiple properties, you start to develop a lot more of these tradespeople and everything else. Now, the alternative is to hire a property manager. There's nothing wrong with hiring a property manager. But remember, you are going to pay 10 or 15%, it depends, of each month's rent. So for argument's sake, let's just call it a couple $100 a month. But for that $200 a month, if the tenant has any problems, they will call your property manager, and your property manager will take care of it. If the toilet breaks or the dishwasher goes, they will cover it and get a repairman in and then send you the bill for the repair. Now, a lot of people will often say, well, it sounds like a lot of work managing your own properties. And I talk about it in my book. If you buy good quality properties, good units, and keep them in good condition. So in the last couple of years, I've completely renovated several of my older units. So if they're relatively new or they've been renovated recently, it really minimizes the number of phone calls for repairs or problems you're going to have. So I like to keep all my properties in good order, either relatively new or renovated. So you don't get an awful lot of calls, I can tell you. I've got tenants right now that I haven't spoken to in years. I'll drop them an email at the end of a year when I'm out of post-dated checks, and have them send me another batch of post-dated checks. I talk about it a lot in my book and in other blogs where I don't raise the rent with my tenants. As long as they're in there and they're taking care of the place and not bothering me, I tend to leave the rent where it is. And that pays dividends for me because they don't bother me. If something minor happens, a light doesn't work, or there's something wrong with the sink, or a tap is dripping, a lot of times my tenants will take care of it on their own. They don't want to call me and bother me because they know they're getting a pretty decent break on the rent. Some of them have been in there years in my units and are probably paying $200 or $300 or $400 below what I could probably get in the market today. So you know, but a property manager will take care of all that, but you will pay for it. You know, in a lot of cases, some people have to use property managers. If they don't live in Vancouver, then you would have to get a property manager to keep an eye on your properties. I have clients that have properties way out in the Fraser Valley who live downtown Vancouver. They use a property manager for those ones. The ones that they have in the Vancouver and the Lower Mainland area, they manage on their own. They don't want to have to go out to Chilliwack and a 2.5-hour round trip drive if something happens. For that, they use a property manager. The other good thing about using a property manager, the advantage is it is a deductible expense. So if you're spending $3,000 or $4,000 a year to hire and use a property manager, you can deduct that from the income that you're taking in on the property. But I'll post a blog to finding tenants here for one of my earlier blogs. But again, I like to manage all my own properties. Eventually, it'll probably get to the point, my wife bothers me about this, but eventually, as I slow down, maybe in another 5 or 6 years from work, and I'm maybe taking a bit more time off and traveling a bit more, maybe I will hire a property manager to start taking on some of these properties, because if you're out of town, it can be difficult. So we'll see. But there are pros and cons to both. No right or wrong, but the bottom line is if you want the maximum amount of return, the maximum amount of cash flow coming into you, you probably want to manage your own properties. The other thing I'll say is it's not as hard as you think. Once you learn how to work the documents, the Form K, the tenancy agreement, you know, how to screen a tenant, how to qualify or apply to get credit checks done, which it takes a little bit of work, but once you've got it, any prospective tenant, you get their driver's license number or their social insurance number, and within 10 minutes you can run a credit check and get a beacon score. Once you're set up for business, it's not all that much work, I'll tell you that. And also, if you're screening your tenants properly and your units are in good order, you generally don't hear from your tenants very often. So from my perspective, why do I want to pay $200 or $250 every single month to a property manager when they're probably not going to hear from my tenant for years on end either? So I'd rather keep all that money, and if something does happen, I'll take care of it myself or get one of my trades guys to go handle it. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do. That way you'll get all my weekly videos. See you next time.